Before we get started, I just want to give a big shout out to the cop that's in that arrest picture there for having the thickest fucking mustache I've seen this side of Lanny McDonald. That dude is a boss. And the man that he is escorting, I suppose is the nicest way to put it, is current Heritage Minister for the Trudeau government, for the Liberal Party of Canada, the power-having party right now. And the man is Heritage Minister Steven Guilbeault, one of the first people, I think, at least the only one that's at least of record, to be a felon and to be elected to public office and hold such a prestigious position. And he stuck his cheese-bedecked hoof in his mouth by confirming what everybody feared when it came to Bill C-10, that YouTube creators would get regulated by the CRTC. After last week, thoughts and accusations and questions asked of the Trudeau government were met by the deity himself as just tinfoil hat type conspiracies. But he had to clarify himself because, of course, he was given whatever podium he needed to. I just wish that he'd bring back the old Greenpeace onesie. That'd be adorable. Steven Guilbeault, Trudeau's Heritage Minister, now says he used unclear language. That's how you operate, so it's not shocking whatsoever when he suggested that social media users with large followings will be subject to regulation under Bill C-10, the widely panned internet censorship bill. Yeah, because what would be qualified as a large following? What? 100,000 people? Okay, let's just say you immediately start to get regulated because you got the fucking play button in the back. Okay, that would be a large following. But would 99,000 not be a large following? It'd still be. 50,000? 25,000? 1,000? 400 people? You know, you get 400 people together, that's a pretty sizable crowd. That's a large audience. That's a large following if you attract that many people to any given place. Who knows where that's going to end? So let's see. Let's just give him an opportunity to clear up his unclear language. The attempt at clarification comes after yet another disastrous interview with CTV's Evan Solomon. Ugh, CTV. Suck a dick. Cunty, terrible videos. That's what CTV stands for, not Canadian television. Millions of viewers who are generating a lot of money on social media. How many of those are Canadian? I just gotta ask. You know what? YouTube is so fucking huge, I don't even know. There are many million sub channels that I would just stumble across. They're talking about shit that I couldn't think that a million people would actually care about, but whatever. It's a big old place. It's a big old place. It's just the place that gets the most talk and the place that gets the most scrutiny is our little corner of the internet. So who fucking knows, really? The statement says Guilbeault should be more precise with his words. An individual, a person who uses social media will never be considered as broadcasters and will not be subject to the obligations or regulations within the Broadcasting Act, except for that's what it says in our, censorship. Oh no, not shit. The fucking bill, the C-10 bill. When social media platforms produce content for Canadians to watch or listen to for broadcast, please listen and watch CBC because they say what we want them to say and we pay them to do it. Oops. The platform will be regulated if a social media platform contracts an individual to produce content for its broadcast. It will still be a social media platform that faces regulation. One way that you can take a look at that statement, okay? If a social media platform contracts an individual to produce content for broadcast, so anybody who gets paid on a platform and puts their content out there could be considered somebody who is contracted to broadcast on the platform. Just, that one right there leaps off the page to me. But here was his original statement. Let's see how much this differs. I'm not going to do the GSP accent. It's probably tough to listen to, but it is fun to do. What we want to do, this law should apply to people who are broadcasters or act like broadcasters. So if you have a YouTube channel with millions of viewers and you're deriving revenues from that, at the same point, the CRTC will be asked to put a threshold. But we're talking about broadcasters here. We're not talking about everyday citizens putting their stuff on the YouTube channels. The fuck's the difference? You didn't clear up anything. I think that's what the post-millennial's pointing out. And again, you know what this also just reeks of? Just the hatred of competence, okay? if you grow a channel, if you're an individual in a room with a microphone, with a camera, or fuck, some people are even popular without a camera. They don't even need to face reveal or anything. That's fine. I just, you know, want to provide something emotive and fun to look at, ladies. This is a guy who, prior to writing this bill and pushing it so hard, nobody gave a fuck about him. Nobody would have seen him with his $2 haircut and his $4 LensCrafters glasses and paid him a second look. I'm sure he's probably also, what's the average height of a man? 5'8"? I'm sure he's probably 5'6". He's probably just bitter about life and everything about that. And this is just trying to claw people down instead of raising up. And if you work for the government, there's no raising up you can do. You have to look after everybody, and you have to treat everybody equally because it is current year. And there's no way you can give everybody millions of views, but you know what you can do? Make sure nobody gets any views by regulating the internet. But it's weird. It's weird because social media censorship bill put on hold as committee explores potential charter violations. Wow. Okay, so not allowing debate on this bill. Okay, calling everybody who opposed it conspiracy theorists, but then it takes a committee to come forth in order to get anything done before this horrific piece of legislation gets shotgunned through. It gets knocked down the door and just forced on everybody. But only on the channels that have millions of subscribers and millions of viewers. Fuck off. Trudeau's Liberal government bill C-10 has been put on hold as a committee of MPs determine if it violates Canadians' freedom of expression rights. Let me save you the time. Yes, it does. It's horrific. Don't do it. Many other people, many other lawyers out there have broke this down, and it's horrific. Okay. The committee, entitled the Canadian Heritage Committee, is made up of all major parties and has requested a new charter statement from the Department of Justice. Oh boy, this is not going to end well. Just hopefully we have some secretly based MPs out there. I'm not going to hold my breath on that. The Toronto Star reports, ugh, rag. The request to do so was passed through a motion that also says that the committee is to hear from both David Lametti, the Minister of Justice, and Steven Guilbeault, two people from the same fucking party. The Minister of Heritage and a panel of expert witnesses before continuing Bill C-10's development. So hopefully this just pushes it off a little bit further into the future. And here's what some Liberal MP lady had to say. I was happy to see the committee finally came together to find common ground. We remain committed to do everything within our power to level the playing field. Don't like that, ever. Between creators and web giants. That's not what this bill proposes. You should probably take, I don't know, 20 minutes to fucking read it, you simpleton. But that's that horrific violation of human rights. And we gotta kind of shift a little bit, okay? Because what's Canada most known for right now on the global space, okay? Other than having the biggest beta on Earth, be our front-facing political figure. Normally, you might recognize him if he's a couple of shades darker by his own application of makeup. But it's the horrific lockdown and the treatment of individuals. And as you can see, we're not going to bring it up, but just above me a little bit, Doug Ford is toying with the idea of putting in stay-at-home orders up until June 2nd. So nice of him, just the day after Canada Day. Fucking fat bag of shit. They took the wrong Ford brother. But it's weird because even the Toronto Police Department are getting sick of Doug Ford because there was once again another huge anti-mask rally that happened in Ontario of all places. We'll get to Alberta and how fucked we are in a minute, but we got to celebrate good things when they do happen. And Toronto Police make no arrest, allow anti-lockdown protests to proceed one day after Doug Ford's restrictive lockdown measures because the people are fucking tired of this shit. And that's not a small congregation of people. In fact, it looks like a few hundred people. Looks like about 400 people even. Enough to get regulated by the CRTC. Protests once again gathered at Queen's Park in Toronto to speak out against the ongoing lockdowns, latest amendment of which gives police increased authority to enforce the provincial stay-at-home order, which is horrific and terrifying. In sharp contrast to previous weeks where protesters were arrested and ticketed, thrown to the ground, knocked off their scooter if they're a menacing-looking 8-year-old, the police were far more relaxed during Saturday's events. Officers stood in groups around the event itself. They're just sick and tired of nobody having their back, because we too also have the stupid defund the police movement. It's very prominent in the city we'll be talking about next by some stupid fat ass that's a outgoing mayor. Thank God. If there's one more tone-deaf politician than that fat-headed asshole, I don't know who it is. You literally cannot gauge the political wins within his own city. But yeah, they're super tired of the Black Lives Matter groups, the defund the police movements, not having their back, and then enforcing these, for lack of a better term, or as the French would call it, fucking retarded stay-at-home orders, because that's how viruses work. Again, it's like we don't have a fucking year, almost a year and a half worth of data to justify going back to work, but whatever. What happens when you take your marching orders from Xi Jinping? Well, let's celebrate based cops that probably won't get placed on administrative leave for not enforcing the law. I hope not. Have seen this cycle continue way too many times. I understand you have an opinion that you'd like to express, one officer said at some protests, adding that free expression is everything in this country. Based officer. Another officer said there are at least two sides to everything, one said, and we're always in the middle. We're just trying to make it a safe place for everybody. Fix your phrasing, but I love your theme, okay? Listen, we should have a conversation. Yes, and that is something that has not been allowed since the beginning up here in Canada, okay? And it's not too dissimilar from the way that anti-lockdown, anti-mask people are being treated in the United States as well. If you're not wearing 45 masks and bowing at the altar of St. Fauci, you get called everything but a child of God by the real beacons of health, you know, your rainbow-haired fat positivity movement models that in order to protest the anti-mask protests have to be transported by flatbed truck in order to get there. That's what they'd be doing. And just like Canada, they have institutional power because, well, that's the base that influences all the policies, of course. But I made allusions to it, and we got to talk about Alberta. And we got to specifically talk about Calgary. And what the fuck is going on there? But it does end on a good note. It's sort of, kind of, I guess. We can't end on too much of a downer. Artur Pawlowski, okay? Based Polish preacher. The man who, when Calgary police stormed into his church, the Calgary Street Church, I think that's what the name of it was, he was yelling at them, Nazi Gestapo, get out, get out! I've worked for Polish people before. They are great people. They are passionate people, and I can't say enough good thing about how strong-willed they are. And this dude is a beacon of hope. Even though I'm not religious, wouldn't be going to church anyways. It wouldn't affect me one bit, but I am a big fan of freedom, and so is this man right here. What was he doing after he got the order, which is horrific, that for all intents and purposes allows the Calgary police, I'm not too sure if it was anywhere else, but I know specifically it was for the Calgary police, they are allowed to enter anywhere as long as they have a suspicion, they have some kind of an idea that a mass gathering could be happening. What's more than mass gathering? I think like 5 people could be congregating anywhere. In defiance of these wonderful public health rules. And arrest, fine, ticket, break up the gathering. So if you live in a large family, if you have a couple of siblings, if you're a parent of a, traditionally large family, you could have your dinner busted up via a eternally emplaced no-knock warrant. Isn't that wonderful? Doesn't that just scream free expression, free speech in Canada? Yeah, well, this dude right here, Mr. Artur, he had that dropped on him last Friday. And I was expecting something like this to be happening last week, but it didn't. Because why? Well, he was holding church service outside. Because you're allowed to have 10 people outside, because that's, once again, more science, I guess. He was holding church service outside, and there was nothing that the police could do about it, other than just attend and maybe learn something. But we had a big scene. Saturday night, I seen this, and I wanted to talk about it when it got better, and I'm happy to report it has, but here's the backstory on it. Artur Pawlowski dragged away by Calgary SWAT police after church. Yep, that's not him, but that's the other pastor that was arrested. I've seen some reports that it's his brother. I don't know. Who knows? Video footage shows Pastor Artur Pawlowski arrested in the middle of the road and dragged into police vehicles on Saturday. Artur and another pastor were stopped by police while heading home from conducting a church service, which has been made illegal in Canada. Yes, that's not nuanced. That's not a misinterpretation of what's going on there. That's just the way it is now. Can't wait for the government to come in, remove all crosses from your walls and pictures of Jesus Christ or whatever God you pray to, and then have them replaced with the shining beacon of Justin Trudeau. According to a recent statement made by the Calgary Police Service, the police are granted permission to arrest an individual for organizing, promoting, and attending a public gathering where the public health orders are not being followed. So he was arrested for promoting a public gathering. Doesn't that sound freaky? And here's a transcript from the court order. The respondent, Artur Pawlowski, together with any other person at the property shall grant access to any executive officer, you can go fuck yourself, in order for him or her to attend at the property without notice during the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to allow the executive officer to exercise his or her powers under Section 59 of the Act. What I described, that was the court order that was issued in perpetuity until the orders are lifted. And what are the parameters for the orders to be lifted? Don't know. When will they be lifted? No fucking clue. Just like Doug Ford is toying with the idea that maybe, I don't know, maybe in like 4 months or 4 weeks time we'll be able to lift the stay-at-home orders. But it's looking like the police, except for these fucking assholes in Calgary. It used to be my favorite city, and I can't wait for that fat fucking mayor to leave. Thankfully, he's retiring or not seeking re-election, probably because he wouldn't win now. Especially because images like this are popping up. I begs the question when enough is enough. Pawlowski's arrest correlates with the rise in anti-Christian incidents globally. Although Pawlowski and his family were promised a home in Canada that would be free of religious persecution, this will be another in a long line of instances where Pawlowski standing up for his rights as a clergyman would result in arrest. You cannot cancel God. Well, Calgary police certainly are trying. But, like I said, we're not ending on a downer. This, in fact, has a bright and shining end to it. He was charged. He is facing a court trial, and he was held for a couple of days, but he's out right now. And Calgary's retarded because he was allowed to leave this morning, but some rogue officers decided that they were going to be holding him back. Why? Don't know. Who's giving them the orders? Don't know, but we got a couple of ideas. Saga of Artur Pawlowski has taken another twist with guards at the Calgary Remand Center. That's just where you get held. It's just like county jail, the clink, you know. Refusing to honor a judge's decision to release the pastor from jail. Haven't spoken with lawyers representing Artur Pawlowski in his legal fight, which, yeah, they got a donation, and you'll love to see it. It's getting a lot of support. It was learned that the guards at the remand center were demanding that the judge, Justice Adam Germain, issue individual orders to the pastor and his brother, David Pawlowski. Guards at the facility also insisted that Pastor Artur's brother's name was spelt incorrectly, claiming that it was spelt David. So they're just being menacing little pricks. I'm sure that they're doing shit like that just because they have a really cunty wife at home, okay? These guys that have no power anywhere else and they just want to excise it wherever they can. Despicable human beings. Pawlowski brothers are immigrants from Poland, where the name David is commonly spelled with a W. Yeah, that makes sense. In an earlier interview with Rebel News, Adam Seuss, God, Canadians have funny last names, Pastor Artur's lawyer, Sarah Miller, was told that the brothers set to be released around 4 p.m. local time in Calgary. Meanwhile, with the crowd gathering in anticipation for the pastor's release, Kian Simone, who's on the grounds in Calgary Remand Center, reported the facility acting director tried to disperse those who had came to assemble at the building. Yeah, and he was waiting there for a while. But, like I said, we're ending on a good note because Artur is free, at least for the time being. And I don't know what his fate legally is going to be because Canada's fucking weird and I have next to no faith in the Canadian justice system. So, at least for the time being. And knowing this crazy motherfucker, he's probably going to be holding a service tonight or tomorrow. I don't know. I personally would recommend donating to his cause because Yeah, I'll just say it. Heroes like that don't come around very often. Guys who are going to stand up for freedoms to this extent don't come around very often. There's a lot of cowards out there right now. A lot of, oh, I'll just follow the rules, and I'll just wear the mask, and I'll just keep my head down, and I'll just make sure to follow all of these arbitrary capacity limits, and I just won't cause a stink, and nobody'll give me a trouble. Yeah, well, guess what? That circle starts to shrink fucking rapidly when people start thinking like you. The link will be, of course, buried within the link of this article. It's just saveartur.com, I do believe. But we can see that it's very, very close to boiling over. All of these lockdown procedures are starting to become a little bit too much for even Canadians to hold on. And it's good to see, because it's going to take the institutional power like the Toronto police in order to just be like, yeah, all of this stuff is kind of stupid. If you guys want to have your protest out in the park, by all means, just don't burn anything down. And nothing happened there. This dude trying to hold a church service. Has anything been leaked to a breakout or a super spreader event at the street church in Calgary? No, of course not. Not even a single case has come from there. They'll go ahead and take extreme measures like this, but at the same time, there was peaceful protests that were happening last summer in correlation with the defund the police movement. So backing the blue across the board, yeah, ain't gonna happen here, because as long as you got these little Dudley do-rights out here, oh, I'm just following orders. Yeah, well, that's how it always fucking happens. It's kind of a downer, I guess, but he's out, free for the time being. The censorship bill's been put on the back burner, and Trudeau is still a homosexual. Thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.